Park Do-yeon stood at the back of the observation deck, trying to make himself as small as possible. The room was filled with the most powerful people humanity had ever gathered in one place. Admirals in their white uniforms, politicians in expensive suits, scientists with enough degrees to fill a library. And here he was, a simple translator, watching history unfold from behind a decorative plant. The United Earth vessel Horizon was the largest ship humans had ever built. It stretched 3 kilometers from end to end, a floating city of metal and light. But today it felt small. Today it held guests from beyond the stars. The Volanthi had arrived. Do-yeon had read every report about them. He had studied their language for 2 years, learning the complex sounds that human throats were barely able to produce. He knew their history stretched back 50,000 years. He knew they ruled over 1,000 worlds. He knew they had been watching Earth since before humans learned to write. But nothing had prepared him for actually seeing them. The Volanthi delegation entered through the main doors, and the room fell silent. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Their bodies were slender, almost fragile-looking, but they moved with a grace that made every human in the room look clumsy. Their faces were almost human, but not quite. Their eyes were too large, their features too perfect, like a painting of a human rather than a real one. At the center of the delegation walked Queen Asara. She was different from the others. Her skin glowed brighter, shifting through colors like the surface of a soap bubble. Patterns of light moved across her body, creating shapes that seemed to tell stories Do-yeon could not understand. She wore no crown, no jewelry, nothing to mark her status. She did not need to. Every eye in the room was drawn to her like iron to a magnet. Do-yeon felt his heart beat faster. He told himself it was fear. It was probably fear. The formal greetings began. Admiral Yoon Tae-sun stepped forward, his chest covered in medals earned from a lifetime of service. He bowed in the Volanthi style, his movements careful and practiced. The Queen returned the gesture with a small nod. "Your Majesty," the Admiral said, his voice carrying across the silent room. "On behalf of United Earth, we welcome you to the Horizon. We hope this summit marks the beginning of a lasting friendship between our peoples." The Queen's voice was unlike anything Do-yeon had ever heard. It was soft, but it filled the entire room. It resonated in his chest, making his bones hum. "We have watched your world for many centuries, Admiral. We have seen your wars and your art, your cruelty and your kindness. We have come to understand you better." The diplomatic dance continued. Politicians made speeches, dignitaries exchanged gifts. A human orchestra played music that had been specially composed for the occasion. The Volanthi listened politely, their glowing faces revealing nothing. Do-yeon watched from his corner, taking notes on a small tablet. His job was to observe, to listen, to translate any minor documents that needed his attention. He was not important enough to speak to anyone. He was barely important enough to be in the room. He found his gaze drifting to the viewport behind the gathering. Through the thick glass, he could see the stars, millions of them, scattered across the black canvas of space like spilled salt on a dark table. Somewhere out there were the Volanthi homeworlds. Somewhere out there were mysteries humanity had not yet dreamed of. He wondered what it would be like to walk among those stars, to see what no human had ever seen, to touch the edge of the unknown. A strange feeling crept up his spine. The hair on his neck stood up. Someone was watching him. Do-yeon turned his head slowly, expecting to find a security officer ready to escort him somewhere less visible. Instead, he found himself looking directly into the eyes of Queen Asara. She was standing in the center of the room, surrounded by admirals and ambassadors, all fighting for her attention. But she was not looking at them. She was looking at him, at Do-yeon, a nobody translator hiding behind a plant. Their eyes met for only a moment. 3 seconds, maybe 4. Then one of the politicians stepped between them, blocking his view, and the moment passed. Do-yeon's hands were shaking. He shoved them into his pockets and tried to breathe normally. It meant nothing. She had probably just been looking around the room. He had imagined the intensity in her gaze. He had to have imagined it. The reception continued for 3 more hours. Do-yeon stayed in his corner, doing his job, trying to forget what had happened. He translated a trade document. He helped a confused Volanthi servant find the restroom. He ate small sandwiches from a tray and wished he was anywhere else. When the event finally ended, he made his way back to his quarters. His room was small, barely larger than a closet. A bed, a desk, a screen on the wall. Nothing special, nothing that mattered. He lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. Above him, somewhere on this ship, was the most powerful being he had ever encountered. A queen who ruled over civilizations older than human history. A creature of light and mystery and terrible beauty. And for one brief moment, she had looked at him. Doyun closed his eyes and laughed at himself. He was being foolish. He was a translator. He was no one. Tomorrow he would wake up, do his job, and the queen would never look at him again. The universe would continue exactly as it always had. He fell asleep telling himself this. He was wrong. In her chambers on the upper deck, Queen Azara stood before a window that showed the same stars Dohyun had gazed upon. Her advisor spoke behind her, discussing the humans, their primitive technology, their short lifespans, their endless emotions. She was not listening. She was thinking about a young man who had stood alone at the back of a crowded room. A man who had ignored the politicians and the speeches and the spectacle. A man who had looked at the stars with wonder in his eyes like a child seeing them for the first time. In 10,000 years, she had not seen anyone look at the universe that way. "Leave me," she said. Her advisors fell silent. They bowed and retreated, confused but obedient. Queen Azara stayed at the window for a long time, watching the stars and thinking about the strange creature called Park Doyun. Tomorrow she would find out more about him. Doyun woke from a dreamless sleep, confused and disoriented. He had not set an alarm. He was not supposed to be anywhere until noon. Who would be knocking on the door of a translator at this hour? He opened the door to find two soldiers in full combat armor. Their faces were hidden behind dark visors. Their weapons were holstered but visible. "Lieutenant Park Do-yun?" one of them asked. "Yes?" "Come with us, sir. Admiral Yoon wants to see you immediately." Do-yun's stomach dropped. Nothing good ever started with soldiers at your door. He dressed quickly, his mind racing through every possible thing he might have done wrong. Had he made an error in translation? Had someone seen him staring at the Queen? Was he about to be thrown out of an airlock? The soldiers led him through the ship's long corridors. They passed through security checkpoints that Do-hyun had never been allowed through before. The walls changed from plain gray metal to polished white. The lights grew softer, more elegant. They were entering the command section, where the most important people on the ship lived and worked. They stopped before a door marked with the seal of United Earth Command. One of the soldiers knocked twice, then stepped aside. "Enter," called a voice from within. Do-hyun stepped inside. The admiral's office was larger than his entire quarters. Windows along one wall showed the stars. A massive desk sat in the center, covered in papers and screens and half-empty coffee cups. Behind the desk sat Admiral Yoon Taeson, the hero of the Mars Rebellion, the man who had saved 3 million lives during the Europa crisis. His face was carved from stone, his eyes sharp enough to cut glass. He was not alone. Standing beside the desk was a Volanthi. Do-hyun recognized him from the reception the night before. Lord Kalen, the Queen's high advisor. He was taller than the Admiral by a full head, his skin glowing a soft blue. His 4 eyes studied Do-hyun with open displeasure. "Lieutenant Park," the Admiral said, "sit down." Do-hyun sat in the only available chair. It was hard and uncomfortable. "I will be direct with you," the Admiral continued. "Something unusual has happened. Something that has never happened before in the history of human-Volanthi relations." He paused. Do-hyun waited, his heart pounding. "Queen Azara has made a formal request. She wishes for you to serve as her personal liaison for the remainder of the summit." The words did not make sense. Do-hyun heard them, but his brain refused to process them. "I'm sorry, sir. Did you say personal liaison?" the Admiral repeated. "She wants you specifically, by name." Lord Kalen spoke for the first time. His voice was like wind through dead leaves, dry and cold. "This is highly irregular. The Queen's safety requires someone of proper clearance, someone with diplomatic training, someone of appropriate rank." He looked at Do-hyun the way one might look at an insect on a dinner plate. "Not this." "I agree completely," the Admiral said. "I have explained to Lord Kalen that you are merely a translator. You have no special qualifications. You have no experience with high-level diplomacy." "Then why?" Do-hyun asked. "Why me?" "That is the question," the Admiral said. "The Queen did not explain her reasons. And among the Valanthi, the Queen's word is absolute. Her requests are commands." Lord Kalen's glow flickered with what might have been anger. "I have served the Queen for 300 years. I have advised her through wars and treaties and the rise and fall of civilizations. She has never made a request like this. There must be some explanation, some manipulation we are not seeing." The Admiral nodded slowly. "That is my concern as well. Lieutenant Park, I need you to be honest with me. Have you had any contact with the Valanthi before today? Any communication? Any encounter we should know about?" "No, sir, nothing. I saw the Queen for the first time last night at the reception. I was standing in the back. I never even spoke to anyone. And yet she asked for you by name." The Admiral leaned back in his chair. "I do not like mysteries, Lieutenant, especially not during the most important diplomatic event in human history." Do-hyun spread his hands helplessly. "I don't understand it either, sir. I'm nobody. I'm just a translator." Lord Kalen made a sound that might have been a laugh, though there was no humor in it. "Perhaps that is precisely why she chose you. A nobody. Someone who will not be missed if things go wrong." The words hung in the air like a threat. The Admiral stood and walked to the window. He stared out at the stars for a long moment before speaking. "Here is what is going to happen, Lieutenant. You will accept the Queen's request. You will serve as her liaison. You will be polite, professional, and careful. You will report everything to me. Every conversation, every request, every detail. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "And Lieutenant?" The Admiral turned to look at him. "If you do anything to damage this summit, anything to harm relations between our peoples, I will personally ensure that you spend the rest of your life in the darkest prison Earth has to offer." Do-hyun swallowed. "I understand, sir." "Good. You are dismissed." Do-hyun stood and walked to the door on legs that felt like water. Just before he stepped out, Lord Kalen spoke again. "One more thing, human. The Queen may have requested you, but that does not make you special. You are a tool, nothing more. Remember your place." Do-hyun nodded and left. The corridors seemed different now. The other crew members he passed looked at him strangely. Word was already spreading. He could hear whispers behind him as he walked. "That's him. The one the Queen asked for. What does she want with a translator? Maybe she's planning to eat him." By the time he reached his quarters, Do-hyun felt like he was going to be sick. He sat on his bed and put his head in his hands. What was happening? Why him? He was nothing special. He had no secrets, no hidden talents, no noble bloodline. He was Park Do-hyun from Busan, son of a fisherman and a schoolteacher. He had joined the diplomatic corps because he was good at languages and bad at everything else. And now he was supposed to be the personal liaison to an alien queen who ruled over 1,000 worlds. He laughed. It sounded slightly hysterical. His tablet buzzed with a new message. He picked it up and read it. "Lieutenant Park Do-hyun, you are requested to attend Queen Asara in her chambers at 1400 hours. Please arrive promptly." He had 4 hours to figure out how to talk to a god. The door to the Queen's chambers was guarded by 4 Valanthi soldiers. They were different from the diplomats Do-hyun had seen before. Their skin did not glow with soft colors but burned with harsh red light. Their bodies were thick with muscle, and their hands rested on weapons that hummed with energy. They looked at Do-hyun like he was already dead. "I'm Lieutenant Park Do-hyun," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The Queen requested my presence." One of the guards spoke into a device on his wrist. A moment passed. Then the massive doors slid open, and the guard stepped aside. "Leave your tablet outside," one of them said. "And any weapons." "I don't have any weapons." The guard's 4 eyes narrowed. "We will check." They scanned him with a device that made his skin tingle. They found nothing, of course. Do-hyun was exactly what he appeared to be. A nervous young man in a wrinkled uniform, carrying nothing but his fear. He stepped through the doors. The Queen's chambers were not what he expected. He had imagined something cold and alien, filled with strange technology and unfamiliar shapes. Instead, the room was almost warm. Soft light came from panels in the ceiling, casting gentle shadows. Plants from a dozen worlds grew in elegant containers along the walls. A window stretched from floor to ceiling, showing a view of space that took his breath away. And there, standing before the window, was Queen Isara. She turned as he entered. Up close, she was even more overwhelming than she had been at the reception. Her skin glowed with patterns that shifted like water, blues and greens and golds flowing across her body in endless waves. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of ink, and when she looked at him, he felt like she was seeing everything he had ever been. "Park Do-yun," she said. Her voice was softer than before, almost gentle. "Thank you for coming." He remembered to bow. "Your Majesty, I am honored." "Please, sit." She gestured to a chair near the window. It looked human-made, probably brought here specially for this meeting. Do-yun sat, feeling clumsy and out of place. The queen sat across from him. She moved like water, like light, like something that had never known what it meant to be awkward. She studied him for a long moment. Her head tilted slightly to one side. "You are afraid," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, Your Majesty." "Why?" Do-yun almost laughed. "You are the most powerful being I have ever met. Your empire spans 1,000 worlds. You could destroy humanity with a single command. And you asked for me, specifically me. I have no idea why, and that terrifies me." The queen's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "Honesty, that is rare among your diplomats. They tell me what they think I want to hear. You tell me what is true." "I am not very good at lying, Your Majesty." "No, I do not think you are." She leaned back in her chair, her glow shifting to warmer colors. "Let me ease your fear, Park Do-hyun. I did not choose you for any political reason. I have no secret plan for you. You are not in danger." "Then why?" "Because of how you looked at the stars." Do-hyun blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Last night at the reception, every human in that room was looking at me, at my delegation, at the opportunity we represented. Power, alliance, advantage. Their eyes were full of calculation." She paused. "But you were looking at the stars. You were looking at them like they were beautiful." He did not know what to say. "My people are very old," the queen continued. "We have seen many wonders. We have traveled to places your scientists cannot imagine. And over the centuries, we have lost something. We have forgotten how to feel wonder, how to look at the universe and see beauty instead of resources." Her glow dimmed slightly. "I saw the way you looked at those stars, and I remembered what it felt like. Long ago. When I was young." Do-yun's throat was tight. "Your Majesty, I'm just a translator. I'm nobody special." "That is exactly what makes you special." She leaned forward. "Your admirals and politicians have spent years preparing to meet us. They have practiced every word, every gesture, every expression. They are performing. You are not. You are simply yourself." The room was silent except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. "I want to understand your people," and the queen said. "Not through reports and analysis, through conversation, through stories. I want you to tell me about humanity, Park Do-yun, the real humanity, not the version your leaders want me to see." "I don't know if I can do that, Your Majesty. I'm not sure I understand humanity myself." "Then we will discover it together." She asked him questions. Strange questions that no diplomat would ever ask. She asked about the taste of rain, about the feeling of sand between toes, about why humans cried when they were happy. Do-yun found himself talking about things he had not thought of in years. His grandmother's garden in Busan, where vegetables grew in crooked rows and bees hummed in the summer air. The songs his mother sang when she thought no one was listening. The first time he saw the ocean, standing on a cliff with his father, watching waves crash against rocks below. The queen listened with complete attention. Her glow shifted with each story, responding to emotions she should not have been able to feel. When he described his grandmother's death, her colors turned soft and blue. When he talked about his first love, they warmed to gold and pink. Hours passed. Do-hyun forgot to be afraid. He forgot that he was talking to a ruler of empires. She was simply someone who wanted to understand, and he was someone who wanted to be understood. Finally, the queen raised a hand. "It grows late. You should rest." Do-yun stood, suddenly aware of how tired he was. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for listening." "Thank you, Park Do-yun. For remembering. She rose and walked him to the door. Will you return tomorrow? If you wish it. I do. The guards outside looked surprised to see him alive. Do-hyun walked back to his quarters in a daze, his mind full of starlight and stories. He did not notice the figure watching from the shadows. Lord Kalen stood in a dark corner of the corridor, his four eyes tracking Do-hyun's movements, his glow flickering with cold anger. The High Advisor had served the Queen for 300 years. He had guided her through crises that would have destroyed lesser rulers. He had been her most trusted voice, and now she was spending hours alone with a human nobody, talking about gardens and oceans and the taste of rain. Something was wrong. Something was changing. Lord Kalen would find out what. Every afternoon, he went to the Queen's chambers. Every afternoon, they talked for hours. She asked about human music, and he sang her a folk song his mother had taught him, his voice cracking with embarrassment. She asked about human food, and he described the perfect bowl of noodles, the steam rising, the smell of broth and spices. She asked about human death, and he told her about funerals he had attended, about the way grief felt like a stone in the chest. In return, she told him about her world, not the politics or the power, but the small things, the way light moved through crystal forests on her homeworld, the sound of a million voices singing in harmony during festivals, the taste of fruits that had no names in any human language. Do-hyun began to look forward to their meetings with an intensity that frightened him. But outside the Queen's chambers, the world was turning against him. It started with small things. His food orders were lost. His messages went unanswered. His colleagues stopped talking to him in the corridors. Then the larger problems began. Ambassador Choi Yoonji cornered him in a storage room on the fifth day. She was a small woman with cold eyes and a reputation for destroying careers. She had spent 30 years climbing the diplomatic ladder, and she had not reached the top by being kind. Lieutenant Park, she said, her voice like ice, we need to talk. Do-hyun felt his back press against the wall. Ambassador, how can I help you? You can start by explaining what you are doing with the Queen. She asked me to be her liaison. I'm just following orders. Following orders. The ambassador laughed without humor. You spend 5 hours a day in private conversation with the most powerful being in the galaxy. You share meals with her. You walk with her through the observation decks. And you expect me to believe you are just following orders? It's the truth. I have spent my entire life preparing for this moment. This summit is the culmination of everything I have worked for. And you, a nobody translator, with no experience and no qualifications, have somehow become the Queen's favorite pet. She stepped closer, her eyes burning with anger. What are you telling her? What secrets are you sharing? What are you getting in return? Nothing. We just talk. About life. About what it means to be human. No one just talks with alien royalty. Everything is negotiation. Everything is strategy. The ambassador's voice dropped to a whisper. If I find out you are working against Earth's interests, if I discover you are selling information or manipulating this summit, I will end you. Your career, your freedom, your family's reputation, everything. She left without waiting for a response. Do-hyun stood alone in the storage room, his hands shaking. He had never been good at political games. He had never understood how people could threaten and manipulate and scheme. He just wanted to do his job. He just wanted to be left alone. But being left alone was no longer an option. That night, he found a message on his tablet. It was unsigned, sent from an anonymous account. The words were simple and terrifying. Stop seeing the Queen. This is your only warning. He deleted the message and tried to sleep. Sleep did not come. The next day brought new problems. Lord Kalen requested a private meeting with Do-hyun. It was not really a request. They met in a conference room on the Volanthi section of the ship. Lord Kalen sat at a long table, his four eyes fixed on Do-hyun like a predator watching prey. Sit, human, Do-hyun sat. You have been spending much time with the Queen. Lord Kalen's voice was cold. You have been filling her head with stories, distracting her from her duties, weakening her focus. I'm only doing what she asked. The Queen does not always know what is best for her. That is why she has advisors. The High Advisor leaned forward. You do not understand our culture, human. You do not understand the dangers you are creating. What dangers? There are those among my people who believe contact with humanity is a mistake. They see your species as disease, as corruption, as a threat to everything we have built. Lord Kalen's glow flickered with dark colors. The Queen's interest in you gives them ammunition. It makes her look weak, compromised, unfit to rule. I'm not trying to cause problems. I'm just talking to her. Just talking. Lord Kalen made a sound of disgust. You humans and your endless talking, your emotions and your stories and your feelings. You think these things matter? You think they have value? He stood towering over Dohyun. They do not. They are weaknesses, and weaknesses destroy empires. He walked to the door and paused. Stay away from the Queen, human, or there will be consequences. Dohyun returned to his quarters feeling like a man standing in the middle of a battlefield with enemies on every side. That night he could not sleep at all. He sat by his small window, staring at the stars, wondering how his life had become so complicated. A soft knock at his door broke the silence. He opened it to find a young Valanthi woman in servant's clothing. She was trembling, her glow flickering with fear. Lieutenant Park, she whispered, I should not be here, but I had to warn you. Warn me about what? There is a conspiracy. Lord Kalen leads it, but there are others, humans too. They plan to assassinate the Queen during the final ceremony. They will make it look like a human attack. They want war between our peoples. Do-Yun felt the blood drain from his face. How do you know this? I hear things. Servants always hear things. She pressed a data chip into his hand. This contains evidence, communications, plans, names. Her eyes were wide with terror. You must tell someone, but not the admiral, not the ambassador. Some of them are involved. I do not know who to trust. Why are you telling me? Because the Queen trusts you, and if she trusts you, then you must be good. The servant backed away. Please, save her. She disappeared into the darkness of the corridor. Do-Yun stood alone, holding a chip that could change everything, wondering who in this ship of lies could possibly be trusted. There was only one person he was sure of. He started walking toward the Queen's chambers. The guards at the Queen's door crossed their weapons as Do-Hyun approached. It is past midnight, one of them said. The Queen is not receiving visitors. This is urgent, life or death urgent. Return to your quarters, human. Whatever you have to say can wait until morning. No, it cannot. Do-Hyun's voice rose with desperation. Please, I need to see her. People are going to die. The guards did not move. Do-Hyun did something he would never have believed himself capable of. He ducked under their weapons and ran for the door. He made it 3 steps before a guard caught him, slamming him against the wall with enough force to drive the air from his lungs. A weapon pressed against his throat, humming with deadly energy. Foolish human, the guard hissed. You will die for this. Let him go. The voice came from behind the doors, which had slid open without a sound. Queen Asara stood in the entrance, her glow bright with alarm. She was dressed in simple robes, her patterns swirling with colors Do-Hyun had never seen before. Your Majesty, the guard said, this human tried to force entry. I said let him go. The weapon withdrew. The hands released him. Do-Hyun fell to his knees, gasping for breath. Leave us, the Queen commanded. All of you. Your Majesty, protocol requires. I said leave us. The guards exchanged glances but obeyed. They retreated down the corridor, their footsteps fading into silence. Queen Asara knelt beside Do-Hyun. You are hurt. I'm fine. He struggled to his feet. Your Majesty, please, we need to talk. Inside, where no one can hear. She searched his face for a long moment, then nodded. She led him into her chambers and sealed the door behind them. Do-Hyun pulled out the data chip the servant had given him. There is a conspiracy. Lord Kalen is involved. They're planning to assassinate you during the final ceremony and blame humanity. They want war. The Queen took the chip and examined it. Her glow dimmed to something cold and gray. How did you learn this? A servant came to me. She said she overheard conversations, found evidence. She was terrified, but she wanted to help. Do you believe her? Yes, I don't know why, but yes. Queen Asara walked to a device on her desk and inserted the chip. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing messages, recordings, maps of the ship. She read through them in silence, her expression unreadable. "Lord Kalen," she said finally. Her voice was soft, almost sad. "I suspected, but I did not want to believe." "You suspected?" "There are factions among my people who have always opposed contact with humanity. They believe your species is too young, too emotional, too dangerous. Lord Kalen has always been sympathetic to their views." She closed the holographic display. "But I did not think he would go this far." Doyun's mind was racing. "What do we do? Who can we trust?" "Very few." The queen turned to face him. "But this is not simply about the assassination plot. This is about something much larger. Something I should have told you long ago." She gestured for him to sit. He sat. She remained standing, pacing before the window, her glow shifting through colors that seemed to reflect deep emotion. "My people are dying, Doyun." The words hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "Not dying in the way you understand. Our bodies are healthy. Our technology is advanced. Our empire is strong." She paused. "But we are dying inside. We have lost something essential, something that makes life worth living." "I don't understand." "Do you know how old the Valanthi Empire is? 50,000 years. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. We have witnessed the birth and death of stars. We have experienced everything there is to experience." Her voice grew heavy with weariness. "And somewhere along the way, we stopped feeling." She turned to face him, and her eyes were filled with a sadness deeper than anything he had ever seen. "We cannot create anymore, Doyun. We cannot write stories that move us. We cannot compose music that stirs our hearts. We cannot look at the stars and feel wonder. We have seen too much, known too much. We are empty inside. But your culture, your art, your technology, copies of copies of copies, echoes of greatness we no longer remember how to achieve." She walked closer to him. "We came to Earth not to conquer. We came because you have something we have lost, something we desperately need." "What?" "Feeling, wonder. The ability to look at a sunset and cry from beauty. The capacity to love so deeply that it hurts. The strength to feel grief and still find hope." Her hand reached out and touched his face gently. "You burn so brightly, Do-hyun. Your lives are so short, so fragile, so full of pain, and yet you feel everything with such intensity. You create beauty because you know you will die. You love fiercely because you know it will end." Her touch was warm, electric. Do-hyun found he could not breathe. "I chose you because you reminded me what it was like to feel," she said. "When I saw you looking at those stars, something stirred inside me. Something I thought had died 10,000 years ago." "I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing." She withdrew her hand. "Lord Kalen and his followers fear what I have discovered. They fear that contact with humanity will change us. And they are right to fear, because change is exactly what we need." "So what do we do?" The queen's glow brightened, shifting to colors of determination and resolve. "We survive. We expose the conspiracy. And we prove to both our peoples that the future lies in connection, not war." "How?" "Together." She took his hands in hers. "I cannot do this alone, Do-hyun. I need someone who understands both worlds. Someone who can bridge the gap between my people and yours. Someone I trust." "You trust me?" "We've only known each other for a few days. In those few days, you have shown me more honesty, more courage, and more genuine feeling than I have encountered in centuries." Her grip tightened. "Will you help me?" Do-hyun looked into her eyes, those ancient, beautiful, impossibly sad eyes, and felt something shift inside him. He was nobody. He was a translator. He was completely out of his depth, but she needed him. "Yes," he said, "I will help you." The queen smiled, and her glow burst into colors of hope and joy that lit up the entire room. Outside, the conspiracy continued its preparations. The final ceremony was only 2 days away. Time was running out. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Do-hyun felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The final ceremony was held in the Grand Hall, the largest chamber on the horizon. 1,000 people gathered beneath a ceiling of glass that showed the stars in all their glory. Human diplomats stood beside Valanthi nobles. Soldiers from both species guarded the entrances. The air hummed with tension and hope. Do-hyun stood near the back of the hall, his heart pounding. He and the queen had spent the past 2 days preparing. They had identified trusted allies on both sides. They had traced the conspiracy's connections. They knew who was loyal and who was not, but they did not know exactly when the attack would come. Admiral Yoon stepped to the podium at the center of the hall. His voice boomed through the speakers. Today marks a new chapter in the history of our species. Today, humanity and the Valanthi Empire sign a treaty of friendship and cooperation that will echo through the ages. The crowd applauded. Camera drones hovered overhead, broadcasting the ceremony to every human colony and Valanthi world. Queen Isara rose from her throne on the raised platform. She was dressed in robes of pure light, her glow brighter than Do-hyun had ever seen. She was beautiful and terrible, like a star given human form. For too long, she said, her voice filling the hall, our peoples have watched each other from a distance. We have feared what we did not understand. We have imagined threats where none existed. She paused, her eyes sweeping across the crowd. But today we choose a different path. Today we choose trust. Today we choose hope. The applause grew louder. Do-hyun watched Lord Kalen standing behind the Queen's throne. The High Advisor's glow was steady, his expression calm. But Do-hyun could see the tension in his posture, the way his 4 eyes kept moving to the entrances. It was about to happen. The first explosion tore through the left wall of the hall. Chaos erupted. People screamed and ran in every direction. Smoke filled the air. Through the breach in the wall, Do-hyun could see armed figures pouring into the chamber. Valanthi in dark armor, humans in combat gear. The conspirators had come. The Queen's guards formed a protective circle around her, their weapons blazing. Admiral Yoon shouted orders, trying to organize the human soldiers. But the attack was too sudden, too coordinated. The defenders were being overwhelmed. Do-hyun ran toward the platform, dodging through the panicking crowd. A bullet whizzed past his ear. An energy blast scorched the floor beside his feet. He did not stop. He reached the platform just as Lord Kalen made his move. The High Advisor's hand shot out, grabbing one of the Queen's guards and throwing him aside with inhuman strength. His glow turned blood red as he pulled a weapon from beneath his robes. "You have betrayed everything we are," he hissed at the Queen. "You would have us become like these creatures, these animals who feel too much and live too little." "I would have us survive," the Queen replied. Her voice was calm despite the chaos around her. "Our people are dying, Kalen. We are empty inside. Humanity offers us a chance to heal. Humanity offers us extinction." He raised his weapon. "And I will not let you destroy us." He fired, but Do-hyun was already moving. He threw himself between the Queen and the weapon. The energy blast caught him in the chest, spinning him around, dropping him to the floor. Pain exploded through his body, white-hot and overwhelming. Through dimming vision, he saw the Queen's face above him. Her expression shifted from shock to rage. Her glow blazed brighter than the stars themselves. She moved faster than anything he had ever seen. Her hand caught Lord Kalen's throat and lifted him off his feet. Her voice was no longer gentle but terrible, echoing with the authority of 10,000 years. "You have spilled innocent blood in my presence. You have betrayed your oath. You have endangered both our peoples." Her grip tightened. "I pronounce you guilty." Lord Kalen's glow flickered and died. His body went limp. The Queen dropped him to the floor like garbage. Around the hall, the battle was turning. Lieutenant Kim Yuna, a pilot Do-hyun had barely known, flew her shuttle directly into an attacking ship that was trying to breach the hall's second wall. The explosion took both vessels, saving hundreds of lives. Security Chief Baek Jin-soo held a corridor against 20 attackers, buying time for civilians to escape through emergency exits. He took 7 wounds before he fell, and even then, he kept fighting from the ground until reinforcements arrived. Humanity's finest hour was not found in superior technology or brilliant strategy. It was found in the willingness of ordinary people to die for each other, for strangers, for a future they would never see. The conspirators, seeing their leader dead and their plans crumbling, began to retreat. Some surrendered, some fled, some died fighting. Within an hour, it was over. Do-yun woke in a medical bay, his chest wrapped in bandages, his body floating in a regeneration tank. The queen sat beside him, her glow soft and worried. "You almost died," she said. "Did it work?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, the conspiracy is broken. The treaty will be signed. Both our peoples saw the attack, saw how we fought together, saw the sacrifice." She reached through the tank's membrane to touch his hand. "You saved my life, Do-yun. I was just doing what any human would do." "No," she shook her head. "You were doing what the best of humanity would do, and that is exactly why your species gives me hope." He wanted to say something meaningful, something worthy of the moment. Instead, he fell asleep holding her hand, dreaming of stars and futures yet unwritten. The signing ceremony took place 3 days later, in a hall still scarred by battle. The damage had been left intentionally, a reminder of what had been overcome. Queen Asara signed for the Valanthi Empire. Admiral Yoon signed for United Earth. The document was simple but profound, a pact of friendship, cooperation, and cultural exchange. Human artists and storytellers would travel to Valanthi worlds. Valanthi scholars would live among humans, learning to feel again. It was not just a treaty, it was a prescription for salvation. As the applause filled the hall, Do-yun watched from a wheelchair in the front row. His body was still healing. The doctors said he would make a full recovery, though he would carry the scar forever. He did not mind. Some scars were worth having. Do-yun stood at the window of his new quarters, watching the stars drift by. His room was no longer a closet. It was a suite on the upper deck, with windows that stretched from floor to ceiling and furniture that had been specially designed for his comfort. He still was not entirely sure how his life had changed so dramatically. After the signing ceremony, offers had poured in from every direction. Admiral Yoon wanted to promote him to commander. Ambassador Choi, her political instincts finally working in his favor, offered him a position as senior diplomatic advisor. 3 different universities wanted him to teach. 2 publishers wanted him to write a book. He had refused them all. Instead, he had accepted a role that had never existed before: first human companion to the Valanthi throne. The title meant nothing in terms of rank or authority. He had no military power, no political position, no official duties. His job was simply to be near the queen, to talk with her, to help her understand humanity, and to help humanity understand her. It was in many ways the same thing he had been doing all along, just with a fancier title. A chime sounded at his door. He turned to find a young Valanthi servant waiting outside. "The queen requests your presence," she said. "The final ceremony is about to begin." Do-yun nodded and followed her through the ship's corridors. The horizon had become something new in the past months. Humans and Valanthi walked the halls together, working side by side, learning from each other. He passed a group of human children being taught Valanthi art by a patient elder. He passed a team of Valanthi engineers consulting with human scientists on a new propulsion system. The future they had fought for was already taking shape. The ceremony was held in the Grand Hall, now fully repaired and restored. But the atmosphere was different from the tension of 3 months ago. The room was filled with light and laughter. Human musicians played alongside Valanthi singers. Tables groaned with food from 100 worlds. It felt less like a diplomatic event and more like a celebration. At the center of the hall, on a raised platform, stood a single chair beside the queen's throne. Do-yun understood what was about to happen. His heart began to race. Queen Asara rose as he entered. She was dressed in robes of silver and gold, her glow bright with joy. The crowd fell silent, every eye turning to watch. "Today we honor those who made this future possible," she announced. Her voice filled the hall without effort. "We honor Lieutenant Kim Yuna, who gave her life to protect others. We honor Security Chief Bayek Jin-soo, whose courage saved hundreds. We honor the soldiers and diplomats, human and Valanthi, who stood together against hatred and fear." The crowd bowed their heads in respect. "But most of all," the queen continued, "we honor the person who taught me what it means to feel, who reminded me that the universe is still full of wonder, who saved my life and, in doing so, saved the hope of 2 civilizations." She gestured to Do-hyun. "Come forward." He walked through the crowd on legs that felt weak. Admirals and ambassadors parted before him. Politicians who had threatened him weeks ago now nodded with respect. He climbed the steps to the platform and stood before the queen. "By the ancient law of my people," she said, "the seat beside the throne is reserved for the most honored being in the realm. Today I exercise that law." She pointed to the chair beside her throne. "This seat belongs to Park Do-hyun of Earth, and it will remain his for as long as he wishes." The crowd erupted. Applause, cheers, whistles. Sounds of celebration in two languages. Do-hyun felt tears prickling at his eyes. He was nobody. He was a translator from Busan. He did not belong here. But the queen was looking at him with something in her eyes that he could not name. Something warm and deep and endlessly patient. Something that said she would wait forever for him to understand. He sat in the chair beside her throne. It was not comfortable. It was not designed for human bodies. But sitting there with the queen beside him and the stars shining through the windows above, Do-hyun felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. After the ceremony, they stood together on the observation deck, watching space drift past. The celebration continued behind them, but they had slipped away for a moment of peace. "Are you happy?" the queen asked. Do-hyun considered the question. 3 months ago, he had been a nobody, dreaming of adventures he would never have. Now he was standing beside an alien queen, part of a story that would be told for generations. "I think so," he said, "but I'm also scared. I don't know if I can be what you need. I don't know if I'm worthy of all this." "No one ever feels worthy," the queen replied. "That is what makes us try harder." She turned to face him, her glow soft and warm. "I did not choose you because you were special, Do-hyun. I chose you because you were yourself. That is all I will ever ask you to be." He looked into her eyes, those ancient, beautiful eyes that had seen the rise and fall of empires, and found himself smiling. "I can try to do that. That is all any of us can do." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were traveling to Valanthi worlds for the first time. Somewhere out there, Valanthi scholars were learning to paint and sing and cry from joy. Somewhere out there, two civilizations were learning that their differences were their greatest strength. Do-hyun took the queen's hand in his. Her skin was warm, her glow gentle. She did not pull away. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now?" She smiled, and for a moment, she looked almost young. "Now we build a future, together." Behind them, the celebration continued. Before them, the stars waited, full of mysteries yet to be discovered. And beside the queen, a translator from Busan looked at the universe and felt exactly what he had always felt: wonder. The story was only beginning.